welcome to my channel where we question everything. Today's topic is, well, it's going to be politics or military affairs. I'm not totally sure. In any case, what I would like to talk about is the hotspots in the world. There are currently 3 hotspots in the world where the Americans and NATO is fairly aggressive, and for some other reason want to start World War III. The first one is the obvious one. That's Ukrainian-Russian SMO conflict. And the US wants to retain Russia at all costs. And they are supporting Ukraine. Yes, there are some smaller ones like Serbia and probably some in Africa and so on. But let's talk about the main hotspots. And the second one is they want to contain China. And to do that, they are supporting Taiwan with military weapons. And then the third hotspot is South Korea and North Korea. Now, these are the hottest hotspots, and these are the ones that can lead to a huge conflict. But there's something wrong with this narrative. There's something... the story doesn't gel. The facts on the ground don't make sense. The narrative doesn't make sense. I don't know how to express it. The point here is just I cannot see why the US is actually doing this. So let's start off with Ukraine. So the Americans were involved in the coup d'etat in Ukraine in 2014, which put a pro-Western government into power. And we know what happened, and the Donbass didn't accept the coup, and they rebelled. And Crimea was incorporated into Russia, and now the 2 Donbass republics are also independent, now part of Russia, and even some 2 more oblasts are now part of Russia, and Russia has invaded, or they did invade. They basically started the war against Ukraine by defending the 2 Donbass republics, etc., etc. And the narrative goes that the Russians have destroyed a lot of armaments of Ukraine, and they are out of ammunition and out of armament, hardware, and NATO basically has to supply them. And NATO is basically running out of ammunition and military equipment to give to Ukraine, or sell it to them, or lease it to them, or whatever you want to call it. But in any case, they are supplying the Ukrainian conflict. But the narrative is that NATO is running out of ammo and artillery, hardware, military hardware. And the narrative also goes is that the Americans have planned this. They have instigated this war. They have poked the bear until he reacted and got out of his sleep. And then we had a military conflict. And that was a foreseeable event. You cannot tell me the Americans didn't know what was happening. They should have had at least a plan B. You know, in my life experience, plans usually never work out. Plan A never works out. Plan B, seldom. If you're lucky, plan C works. But usually plan D and E, that's the ones that usually work out, more or less. So anybody that would have entered this conflict or this situation should have at least had a plan C. But it looks like the Americans didn't have it. And now they're running out of ammo, and they're running out of military hardware. And that's only in Ukraine. Now they are poking, and you call it the Chinese tiger. If it's a tiger, Eastern tiger. They are poking the tiger. And the tiger is growling and showing its fangs and, hey, stop this, I'm going to bite you. But the Americans poke the tiger. by Nancy Pelosi's stupid visit and the other Congress people that visit and the European leaders that went to Taiwan. Oh, God. Any case, so now there's a defense bill or whatever they call it that has been now approved by the American Congress, and it's going to Joe Biden, and it makes provision for $10 billion worth of armament sales for the next 3 years to Taiwan. That is what's being told. What are you going to do with $10 billion worth of armament, Taiwan? Ask Taiwan, what are they going to do with this amount of weapons? If Ukraine has already received $20 billion worth of armaments, old stuff from the Western world, and it's basically, well, not losing the war, but it's sort of, it's not a standstill either, but it's now a conflict that is sort of semi-imbalanced. So if America cannot even supply Ukraine with the necessary hardware, and they are instigating Taiwan to make war against China, and China has the same amount of weapon systems than the Russians have, and they have the manufacturing capability of producing armament at a huge rate, similar to the Russians, and America doesn't have it. As the leadership of Taiwan, I would ask myself, why am I buying even these weapon systems? If the supplier cannot fill my orders, if I go into this conflict, there's saber rattling, and for some other reason, I make a mistake and step over the line, and China says, hey, that's a red line. From here on, deal is off. Here we come. You know, it doesn't make sense to me. Why is Taiwan even agreeing to these military assessments, weapons systems, if the Americans cannot supply them? You cannot supply them with ammunition, you cannot supply them with artillery pieces, you cannot supply them with air defense systems. You know, what is the biggest threat of these days? Drones and cruise missiles. Now, cruise missiles are a little bit bigger and they are a little bit fewer, but drones are cheap and plentiful, and you have to shoot them down one way or the other. And you cannot use $100,000 worth of air-to-air missile, which has converted to a ground-to-air missile, like the NASAMS. So, and if I send you 1,000 drones, and then suddenly you have to fire 1,000 air defense missiles. And whoops, you're out of stock and you haven't even started the war. So why is Taiwan, in any case, buying these weapons? It makes no sense. Why are you poking the tiger? What? I don't understand that. And then we have North Korea and South Korea. Now, North Korea is also a nuclear powered country. And if there's war, then the first thing that the North Koreans would do, and they are not a tiger, they are a psychopath. And you poke the psychopath, and the psychopath reacts. So you have all these special military exercises, and so you show your fangs to North Korea, and when North Korea fires a couple of ballistic missiles, then you stand back and say, oh yeah, look, aggressor. Look how aggressive is North Korea. But actually, you instigated that. Now, watch actually a show, you know, the underground on RT, going underground from Afshin Naratansi. And he was talking to a Captain James Fennell, who was the former intelligence of the U.S. Navy Pacific Fleet. He's a director of that. So he's supposed to know. And if you listen to him, it sounds all right. In any case, but he makes a couple of statements, and then Johnny asks him, but, you know, why are you criticizing this? Because that is what the Americans have done. And, I mean, but it's like this guy's arguing, but he forgets what he has done, and he only sees the other person as an adversary. And He doesn't see them team that he has done the same. He only concentrates on the enemy. But him provoking the enemy, that's not on. That goes through his brain. It doesn't go through his flow of thoughts. He doesn't realize that. So again, what the Northern Korea would do is they have a huge amount of artillery pieces on the de-conflict zone or no man's land or whatever. And those things can all hit Seoul. They all have within the range of Seoul. Seoul, yeah. In any case, high density populated area. And if it goes through, then those hundreds and maybe 1,000 artillery pieces will all fire. And they will keep on firing. And I'm sure that North Korea made provision for that ammo. And then what would be the consequences? And again, there are supposed to be, I believe, about 100,000 American troops there. South Korea doesn't control their own army. They are all subject to the troops of the American command. So you're not even in control of your own army and your own military. And you cannot decide when a war is waged or not. So it basically means South Korea is occupied by Americans. And they have been occupied since the Korean War. But nobody really talks about that. So what is all the saber rattling doing by the Americans? They are supposed to have no weapons. They're not supposed to have kept up with the technology. They have some advanced fighters that don't perform as they should be performing. It's a jack of all trade, master of none. They have a huge fleet of aircraft carriers that can be destroyed by hypersonic missiles. Fairly easy now. So what's the point? You know, if I was China and I had to do something, like I would show a shot over the bow of a ship, that if you want to stop that, they shoot a cannonball over the... In any case, all I had to do is, one night, I would distribute some pamphlets during the day over the, call it the Silicon Valley type of thing, there where they make all the chips, microchips, all these factories. Tell the guys, we're going to bombard your factory tonight. Please evacuate this factory. And then they sent a huge number of cruise missiles, overwhelmed the air defenses of Taiwan, and then take out, say, 20% of the factories that makes all these microchips. That's all they have to do. Because, you know how they always say, Ukraine is a floating aircraft carrier. Well, Taiwan is a floating microchip manufacturer. Supplies huge numbers of critical components with the high-tech, low nanometer technology. So blow up a couple of factories and you see the market and the financial systems in the Western world and the world actually collapse. And then who can supply the microchips? China. Huh? And you haven't even conquered Taiwan. And Taiwan would have shot all their Patriot missiles that they have and all the other systems that they might have had, which we don't really know about. And then Taiwan will look at America and say, please, can you send me some more Patriot missiles? And then America would say, sorry, you have to wait 2 years. We have to first manufacture all these things. Oh, but the Patriot missile is not an explosive device. It's a direct hit type of weapons. That means it has to hit a cruise missile in flight. That's how it destroys it. It's not like a S-300 that has a proximity fuse and then blows up the whole thing. No. That's just strike it. And how do you going to strike a cruise missile? And if the smaller the target is, the more difficult it's going to be to destroy it. And how much does a Patriot missile cost? So I don't understand this. Maybe some of you as the viewers can explain to me. Because like they say, the Americans are not ready for any war, any significant war. But that's how the narrative goes. So again, I ask the question, is there something we don't know? Is things really like they look to be? I say no, that's things do not seem to be as they look to be. Whatever, there's a saying that goes like that. Come on, people, tell me something. Because I don't know. Just doesn't make sense. There's no logic. There's just stupidity. And even if you consider the Americans to be stupid, then you have to ask yourself, but is the Taiwan's even more stupider by accepting these so-called bribes from the Americans? Because it will be a one-off effort and then they will be empty and then nothing left. And then they will be overrun. But China doesn't have to attack or overrun Taiwan. They can have naval embargoes. They can destroy some of their core industries. And that's it. The cost would be too high not to surrender. Anyway, so that's my story for today. If you like what you heard, please subscribe. Tell your friends, spread the word. Press the bell button to be notified. And if you have some information or insight that I cannot see, please put it in the comments. I would really like to know. So until next time, cheers.